Okay, so let's work on our UFO game a little more. My goal today is to get a couple extra sprites in here, and I want to get my UFO tipping side to side as I drive it. That's really what I'm after. So we're gonna be mostly sprite work in this video. So the first thing I'm going to do in GameMaker is I'm going to do save project as, and my project is currently called UFO 01. So I'm going to call it UFO 02. And this is just so if I make some mistakes and things aren't working, I can always revert to the old version. This is not the best way to do version control, but it's a way to do version control. If you're familiar with GitHub or something, you might do version control that way. I'm going to look in here. I've got my static sprite for my UFO. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to duplicate that sprite. And I'm going to call this one SPR underscore UFO right. And then I'm going to duplicate again, and I'm going to make one called SPR UFO left. Okay, and then I'm just going to open this, and I'm going to hit edit image. And the way I'm going to tip this is I'm going to use the select tool, and I'm just going to select the entire image, and then I'm going to copy it. Whoops. Let me rephrase that. I'm going to cut it. And then I'm going to use this rotate brush tool. So that's going to let me tip things. And right now I'm making the one that goes to the left. So I want to tip that to the left. Okay. That's got my UFO tip to the left. I'm going to go ahead and drop that. Oops. I'm going to go ahead and drop that in as close as I can get to the center. So there we go. I've dropped that. I'm going to go ahead and add another frame here. I'm going to go into this other frame. I'm going to turn onion skins on real quick so I can see what the previous one looked like. And then I'm going to mirror my brush. So that's going to make my UFO look like this guy. And then I'm trying to place this so the top of the dome is in basically the same spot. But I'm not quite able to do that. So I'm looking for the left and right edges to line up. And I think they're lined up right about there. So I'm going to drop this in. And then I'm going to go ahead and select a different brush. Okay, I'm going to turn onion skins off because I don't need that. Now, I'm going to go into my, let's see. So I've done this in UFO right is the one I'm in. So when we're moving to the right, I want it leaned like this. So I'm going to grab this guy, and I'm going to cut this frame. I'm going to go into UFO left and hit edit image. I'm going to go ahead and add another frame. And, oops, I didn't need to add a frame. I just needed to paste a frame. And then I'm going to remove the original. So now UFO left is tipped towards the left, and UFO right is tipped towards the right. So I can see that those are mirror images of each other. Okay. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my objects. I'm going to grab OBJ player, open this step event, and then I'm going to do a little kind of thinking. So the thinking I'm going to do is I'm going to say, all right, based on what the X speed is calculated as, I should either tip the ship to the left, tip it to the right, or leave it the same. So I'm going to do a if in here. And we're going to say if the X speed is greater than 0, then we're going to go ahead and set our sprite to, so if it's bigger than 0, we're moving to the right. So we're going to set it to the right sprite. And otherwise, we're going to say if X speed is less than 0, we're going to set our sprite to, in this case, we'd be moving to the left. So we're going to set that to the left sprite. And then we're going to add another else here. So this else is only going to get fallen into if my UFO isn't moving at all. And in that case, I'm going to set the sprite to the static one. Then I'm going to hit run and see if this is working. So now if I move to the right, it tips to the right. If I move to the left, it tips to the left. If I let it go, I think that looks basically okay. Cool. The ship feels a little sluggish. This isn't super fast. So since it doesn't feel super fast, I think I might want to go up here into my X speed and say multiply by 7 instead of 5. That's just me kind of making adjustments to the game as I mess with it. That feels a lot better to me. Okay, cool. So now let's see if we can get our sprite to look a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to just duplicate my static sprite, and I'm going to make a sprite that I'm going to call idle. Okay. Then I'm going to open this sprite up. I'm going to open up edit image, and we're going to use the magic wand tool here. You'll notice the tolerance here. I've got this set fairly high, but it's still not grabbing all, or let's see. I'm going to set it a little higher. Okay, now it looks like it's grabbing all of the yellow pixels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, all right, I'm going to make some more frames. So I'm going to duplicate this frame a few times. Okay, so now I've got 5 of these. I'm going to take this last one. I'm going to use a color picker on this yellow. I grabbed in the center of that yellow, and I'm going to say, all right, I want to go for a much more orange. So now I've got this orangey color. I'm going to use my magic wand to grab all of the yellows. I'm just holding shift down. Looks like I got not quite all the yellow pixels. I think if we... Oops. So I just hit escape to drop this selection. So I've got those ones. I've got those ones. Looks like I'm not getting quite all the yellow pixels, so I'm just going to bump this tolerance up a little bit, and we'll try that again. I'm looking for these pixels right here. You guys see that I was missing a couple of pixels there? Yep, still missing a couple of pixels. I need to bump this up a little bit. Oop, too far. Okay, that looks like I'm still not quite getting all of them, but we'll call that probably good enough. Let me drop this one more time. Let's try... Oop. Yeah. Okay. So I'm missing a couple of pixels here, but I'm going to say close enough. All right. So now I want to make these that orange color. So I'm going to grab my dye bucket, and I'm going to smash that on here. So now I've got orange. Now, looking at this, what I did was I kind of played with the hue. So the hue is 35 on this one, and on my other color, it's 55. So I'm just going to go in increments of 5 here. So I'm going to adjust my color, and we're going towards 35. So I'm going to do 50. And hit OK. I'm going to paint all of these. I'm going to go to the next one. I'm going to tell this to be 45. And I'm going to paint all of these. I'm going to go in here now. And I'm going to tell this to be 40. And I'm going to paint all of them. And then this one, it's already... this one was 55, so I need one more frame here. So I'm going to take this frame and duplicate it. And then we're going to go ahead and set this to... Wait, what was it in this one? I just did wrong. It was 35. And this one right now is 40. Okay, I didn't need to add extra frame, so I'm going to delete that extra frame. Okay. So now if I play this, I've got kind of looping. The colors are changing slowly. Well, they're changing rapidly, so I'm going to change them slowly. So I'm going to set the frame rate down to 5. So now they'll change just a little bit at a time. And then I'm going to go ahead and make this thing so it actually loops. So I'm going to take this frame here. I'm going to duplicate it and scoot it over. So now I've got the dark orange one in the middle. I'm going to take this one. I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm going to scoot it all the way over. Let's see. So that was this one duplicated. So I'm going to duplicate this one. And I'm going to scoot it all the way to the end. And I'm going to duplicate this first one. And I'm going to scoot that all the way to the end. Now, I think I've got a cool little idle animation. So let's try that out in our game. So I'm going to go into my OBJ player. And I'm going to say, all right. When we're not moving, I want to set it to the idle sprite. And here, I'm going to set the default sprite also to the idle sprite. And then let's hit run. Something's not working there. Was I changing the idle sprite? I was changing the idle sprite. Okay, so what's going on there? Well, this is a thing that happens sometimes. So looking at this, we're setting this to frame 0. That means it's always restarting at frame 0, and frame 0 is the static sprite. So if I switch this to relative, now what's happening is we're slowly cycling through our sprite. Notice the color is always yellow when I'm moving sideways. So I may want to give the sideways versions of this that same treatment so that they also cycle through. That's a little tedious to put in a video, so I'm going to do that off camera. Here it is after I've done that, those adjustments. So we can see that it's cycling. It actually looks really smooth. I'm pretty friggin' happy with this, honestly. I think I've accomplished my little goal for the day. So thanks for watching this video. Catch you on the next one.